This is your newsroom for today, Wednesday, March 24, 2021. We're broadcasting to you on E1, Scar TV, NTN, and Tarzi TV in Bartica. In the headlines, the contractors of the Sheriff Street and Mandela Avenue Road project have agreed to work during curfew hours in order to complete the project, while the renovation of Hunter Street is slated for completion in 2 weeks.
As you can see, we had a lot of hindrance earlier in the year with the rain.
A crying rapist is sentenced to 21 years imprisonment. A young entrepreneur is on a mission to educate society about the misconceptions of a woman's menstrual cycle. A marine institute, part of a $35 million investment, will be opened here soon. And in sport, skipper draws inspiration from Gold Cup memory as Golden Jaguars prepare to face Trinidad and Tobago, and Fruta Conquerors banking on youth and experience at Caribbean Club Shield tournament. With the news, I'm Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for joining us. We start off by telling you that having taken over works on the once derelict Hunter Street during the latter part of 2020, Vera 66 Logistics on Wednesday assured that the ongoing road rehabilitation works will be completed by April 12, 2021 or even sooner. The assurance in completing what is one of the main access roads from the East Bank corridor into Georgetown came as the Minister of Public Works, Juan Edgel, resisted downpours to carry out his scheduled inspection of roadworks along Hunter Street and the Sheriff Mandela Road. But while citizens will soon get relief with the completion of Hunter Street, the contracting firm for the Sheriff Mandela Road, Sino Hydro Corporation Limited, was iffy about recommitting to its August deadline. Kurt Campbell reports.
Two contracting firms, Vera 66 Logistics and Sino Hydro Corporation Limited, currently conducting roadworks on Hunter Street and the Sheriff Mandela Road, respectively, both complained on Wednesday about the impact of inclement weather on the advancement of the projects. Speaking to the newsroom, Matthew Vera of Vera 66 Logistics said that despite the minor setbacks with the rain in recent days, the project is some 80% complete.
Basically, we have until the 12th of April to complete. We will be completed before then. Everything is going well so far, but as you can see, we had a lot of hindrance earlier in the year with the rain. We still have a little hindrance with the rain, also traffic and block off, but we'll be finished by the 12th for sure.
The young Vera further explained that a lot of the time was expended trying to rectify errors of the previous contractor on the section of the street that stretches from West Rheinfeld Front Road to Mandela Avenue. The initial contract for $86.6 million was awarded in May 2019 to Surrey Paving and Ideal Engineering for the geometric improvement of the street, which included raising the level of the road above the drains to prevent flooding and the upgrade of the sidewalks. The contract was initially scheduled to conclude in December 2019. Meanwhile, Minister Edgel and his team also made several stops along the Sheriff Mandela Road where work is ongoing. The newsroom caught up with Sino Hydro Corporation project manager, who explained that although the road works were moving ahead, it was still stalled in some regards.
At Mandela Avenue, we have some challenges with GWI pipe work. We need to change over all the pipe to the old pipe to our new pipe outside the drains, so we can widen the road. We've been working that for several months, and hopefully we can finish all of that by the end of this month.
Taking everything into account, including the inclement weather, the contracting firm said the August 4, 2021 deadline, which was in place since last year, seems unlikely.
By August, I don't think we may not be able to complete all the works due to the holding by GWI pipes, but we are trying our best to finish most of the works.
The Sheriff Mandela Avenue roadway was constructed in the 1970s. The ongoing project is presently being funded by the Inter-American Development Bank to the tune of US $31 million and was originally contracted to Sino Hydro, who has since subcontracted companies to complete the work. The US $31 million project was launched in 2018 but was subsequently halted when the coalition government threatened to take the project from the Chinese contractor. It restarted when the government changed in August 2020.
Meanwhile, contractors carrying out upgrades to the Sheriff Street and Mandela Avenue on Wednesday reached an agreement with the Ministry of Public Works to commence paving during the curfew hours of 22 hours 30 to 4 a.m. in a bid to remedy the disruptive traffic flow on a daily basis. During an inspection of the project, Minister of Public Works Juan Edgel said while he is satisfied that the works are moving ahead from a once stagnant position, he is unhappy with the prolonged disruption that commuters are forced to endure. It is against this backdrop that the agreement has been reached to do the first level of paving to bring relief to drivers.
The whole traffic is slowed up. On a daily basis, they have a backup. So my instruction is to get on with this work. I have just given the instruction that work will commence on the Sheriff Street between this section that is completed paving and to the Culture Center, and they're going to work at night when the curfew hour begins. So 10:30 at night, when there's a curfew hour, they will be able to get the paving done at night till morning when it's 4 o'clock, when the curfew hours is lifted, so that we'll be able to give the road movement again, as one way of moving the work forward. And I believe that is a significant activity that could help the pace, because you see what's going on here with traffic. You can't do no paving here in the day. So the curfew hours, 10:30 in the night, and you have to help us to get that through to the media. We will start by when?
We're scheduled to start next week.
Next week?
Yes.
Good.
Pending the weather.
By next week, Monday.
Yes.
From next week, Monday, but we will put out advisories as we will normally do.
We tell you now that a 31-year-old taxi driver was on Wednesday sentenced to 21 years imprisonment for raping a 12-year-old schoolgirl back in 2019. Sahadio Puran, known as Umesh, was on trial before Justice Joanne Barlow at the Demerara High Court for the offence, which stated that on September 27, 2019, he engaged in sexual penetration with a child who was under the age of 16. A 12-member jury earlier this month found Puran guilty. The prosecutors asked the judge to consider the age of the accused, the prevalence of the offence, and the fact that Puran showed no remorse for his action. The prosecutors also urged the court to consider the stain that is left on the victim's life and the fact that her innocence was snatched away by Puran. Puran, who cried uncontrollably throughout the hearing, maintained that he was innocent of the charge but said he was sorry as he begged the judge for leniency. Before imposing the sentence, the judge considered the age of the victim, the trust persons placed in Puran relating to the transportation of their children to school, and also the confinement of the victim. Justice Barlow said that she found no mitigating factors since Puran showed no remorse for the heinous act. In addition to the 21 years imprisonment, Puran was also ordered to attend counseling sessions behind bars. Now, the Ministry of Health has launched an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the death of a 23-year-old woman at the National Psychiatric Hospital located in New Amsterdam Berbice, Region 6, East Berbice Quarantine. This is according to the Public Relations Officer, Shabana Shaw. Additionally, Regional Commander Senior Superintendent Jairam Ramlakan told the newsroom that a police investigation is also ongoing. Renata Prestano died on March 12, 2021, but to date the family has been unable to get a post-mortem examination done in order to proceed with her burial. Renata was discovered hanging with a sheet wrapped around her neck at the hospital 2 weeks ago. Her mother, Michelle Prestano, suspects foul play, noting that her daughter's feet was almost touching the ground when her body was discovered. The mother claimed that her daughter, who has been at the institution since November last year, was in a state of distress and desperately wanted to leave. Renata was a frequent patient at the hospital over the last few years. Her mother said she suffered from mental breakdown as a result of a traumatic experience in the past. The family is hoping that the autopsy will provide some answers into her death. A young businesswoman is on a mission to educate society about the many misconceptions of a woman's menstrual cycle and increased water supply for some Region 1 villages. Those and more when the newsroom returns. This is the Newsroom. The Ministry of Health has recorded 3 new COVID-19 deaths within 24 hours. The latest fatality is a 69-year-old man from Region 4, Demerara Mohaika, who died while receiving care at a medical facility on Wednesday. On Tuesday, 2 men from Region 3, Essequibo Islands West Demerara, a 50-year-old and a 48-year-old, also died at a medical facility. This takes the total number of deaths from the pandemic to 221 and also represents the 22nd death for the month. Meanwhile, this is the 6th death to have been recorded for this week alone. Christine Gooding, owner of the Period Box located on Duncan Street, Campbellville, Georgetown, is on a mission to educate society about the many misconceptions of a woman's menstrual cycle and also empower women in entrepreneurship. Gooding spoke with Newsroom's Akim Green on Wednesday and revealed her plans to assist women on this issue.
Hi, my name is Christine Gooding and I am the owner of Period Box. Well, periods, as we may or may not know, has been and is a topic that is severely taboo. It is a discussion that is hardly ever had in depth. And for people that will experience their period for the first times, it's often a discussion that is had simply by saying, well, this is your pads, this is what you're going to use when you have a period, and that's the start and the end of the conversation. But this business was initially started to raise awareness around the topic and the conversation of periods, because it is such a taboo topic. A lot of women and a lot of people who menstruate suffer in silence simply because it's seen as, you have it, deal with it. And apart from us starting a conversation around periods and removing the stigma and the taboo away from having a period, it was also important for us to focus on period poverty. When this business was established last July, that was one of our most important mandates. It was to educate persons on the effects of period poverty, and also for us to do the groundwork to help to alleviate the issue of period poverty in Guyana.
Gooding further noted that while 6 months is too early to judge the impact of her efforts, the main thing is that the groundwork of educating persons on reproductive health has been laid, especially to equip parents with the tools to have conversations with their children on the topic of periods.
So the idea is simply to have everything that you would possibly need for your menstrual cycle at your convenience. So we are talking about painkillers. We have teas that obviously you're stressed, right? So we have painkillers, we have patches you can use to help with the cramps in your tummy. We have, if you want to choose between your tampons or your pads, we have those options along with liners. We also have candles. It's part of this that we think is so important is that when we have our periods, we just tend to keep going. And for a lot of women, a period is a very, very uncomfortable and painful experience. For a lot of women, it can be so painful so that they either can't go to work or can't go to school for at least the first few days of having their period. So this ideally is like a self-care box that you can get things that will offer you some comfort, offer you some relaxation during that period. So that's why we decided to include, apart from the basics, which is your pads, tampons, or liners, that we thought you might need a candle, unwind. We have a body scrub that helps. You want to take a shower, you want to give yourself a little bit of extra love and care. We have teas that also are there to help you to unwind, relax. We have our painkillers. Like I was saying, we also have the heat pad. And there are some little snacks and things like that come along in it. We also have a little bit of stickers, a little bit of like positive affirmations and things like that. And we are about to also launch our period box pouches. Now these are for on the go. We're thinking about when you're traveling, or if you're going on a road trip or a staycation, or even to have it every day in your bag, in your purse for at school or at work, where you will have a little pouch with some of your essentials and, like I said, everything else to make you feel a little bit more comfortable as you experience your period. How it can be encouraging and empowering is that the space is here to make you, when you see something, it's easier for you to realize that you can also achieve it. So when women can see that this is happening and that women can find it easy to come and rent a space or a shelf or whatever it is and make their dreams a reality, I think that is something that we're most proud of at the Babe Cave. In terms of expansion, our idea is to educate more, and one of the most important things for us is also the way we can impact on the education of period poverty and how we can give back to women and girls who cannot afford period products or menstrual products. So when we think expansion, that's what we think. We think about education and resources, not necessarily opening a bigger location, brick or mortar, or being available with our products in supermarkets or anything like that. It could happen in the future, but for now, we really want to be intentional with this project because it means so much to us, and we know the benefit it would have on a lot of lives. If you're interested in finding more of our products, if you're interested in finding out more about the period box, feel free to check us out at 129A Duncan Street.
Within a few weeks, communities in Maburuma and Wanaina in Region 1, Burima Waini, will benefit from an increased supply of water with the installation of 2 electrical pumps. Minister of Housing and Water Colin Crowell made the announcement during a visit to the region at the weekend. Isnel Patwa reports.
The Guyana Water Incorporated is carrying out a number of works in Maburuma and Wanaina in Region 1 as catered for in the 2020 budget. The works include installing electrical pumps to increase the water supply in these 2 areas. A new reservoir in Maburuma has also been completed, Minister of Housing and Water Colin Crowell said during a recent visit to the region. The minister said the objective is to increase the water distribution network within the region.
So the focus now will be, as part of this expansion service, is for the installation of electrical pumps. There are 2 electrical pumps that are going to be installed, one in Maburuma here central as well as for Barabino. Those pumps, after the installation of those pumps, we were expected by somewhere around by the 2nd week of April. We expect before, but I'm going to give that outside timeline, by the 2nd week of April, to have them connected to the electrical system, the generating system from here in Maburuma. So what that does is allow increased pumping hours. As it is right now, they're using the Moto system, and so it will allow increased pumping hours.
Once all the works are completed, there will be a constant and reliable supply of water to the Maburuma District Hospital, regional offices, and the residents. According to the minister, other communities in the region will further benefit from water supply later in the year.
With Wanaina, we are expecting to, in the long term, that Wongna will further benefit. In this 2021 budget, they are among the many wells, but as priority would be the drilling of a well at Canhill as well as at Wongna. And this will be done in the latter half of this year. So for the Wongna community, they have been complaining a lot, and because they are depending on the Wanaina system. By the end of this 2021, I'm pleased to let them know that they will be having their own well that will service that community.
Additionally, a drilling rig will also be sent to the region to drill more water wells in other communities. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanela Patwo.
Now, the government has been battling filaria for many decades and is now one step closer to finally eradicating the disease. The Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, says his ministry has completed a final filaria mass drug administration campaign, which began mid-February. The minister on Wednesday stated that preliminary assessments so far reveal that 70% of the population took their pills, exceeding the 65% target.
As you know, we started this program a couple weeks ago, and I'm very pleased to report that the program is now completed. Overall, our assessment is that we have achieved about 70% of the population would have received the filaria pills. We were aiming to get at 65%, so we've exceeded it, and they're now mapping up and doing the numbers. So I think it would even be a little bit higher. So I want to thank everyone who has been involved in this campaign. I think they did a fabulous job of going out, reaching out to people, encouraging them to take their tablets. And now that they've taken the tablets, we've been able to accomplish this feat of 70% of our population taking the tablets. The next step in this process is that we'll finalize those numbers. Then we'll invite PAHO WHO to send a team in to verify what we have completed. And once they're satisfied and they can verify the numbers that we currently have, then they would certify Guyana as being free from filaria. And that's a good achievement because we have been battling with filaria for many, many decades now.
The U.S. Embassy Humanitarian Assistance Program, that's the HAP team, conducted a medical training with members of the Guyanese Ministry of Health in Port Kaituma from March 23 to 24. The team instructed hospital personnel, teachers, local volunteers, Guyanese police officers, and members of the Guyanese Defense Force about basic trauma care, preventative medicine, women's health, sex education, and veterinary medicine. The instructors were medical professionals from the Global Medical and Surgical Support Group Corps, one medical specialist from the U.S. HAP team, one U.S. veterinarian specialist, and one preventative medicine specialist. Along with training, the team made assessments for future U.S. interagency deliveries of medical supplies for those areas in need. When the newsroom returns, a Marine Institute, part of a $35 million investment, will be opened here soon. This is the newsroom. As part of a $35 million investment, which will include a modern shipyard for the building and repair of ships, local company Atlantic Ventures Limited has teamed up with Indian-based Alexaria Corporation International to set up a maritime institute here. The institute is currently accepting applications and is connected to an accredited institute in Singapore and has received permission from the Maritime Administration here to operate.
Alexaria Corporation International has set up marine institutes in Singapore, Sri Lanka, Dubai, India and other parts of the world. Now it is gearing up to run an institute here in a partnership with Atlantic Ventures Inc. in an overall project costing $35 million. The Guyana Office for Investment and other government agencies have welcomed the investment into the Training Institute and the associated investments.
We have had an influx of folks coming in to look at opportunities. This particular investment is exciting. One, it opens up a new set of industries for Guyana. The Indian company partnering with a local company is also a big plus. Getting into the marine building, construction, fabrication, training is something Guyana has done way in the past, but to see this industry revitalized, and the most impressive part of this integration with the international forum and the local forum is the fact that they believe in a joint partnership. And the output, you know, if we can start building ships in Guyana in the near future, barges, and we can train our people for the oil and gas industry right here in Guyana, it's a positive. And it's a multi-million-dollar investment, $35 million initial investment. I've met with the foreign investors coming out of India. I've met with the local company. They're a fabulous local company, Atlantic. They have done their ISO certification. They have stepped up to what our president has called for local content to be ready to lead some of these projects. And this joint partnership brings that value for future investments and the current investment.
Atlantic Ventures has over 10 years' experience in the marine and mining industries in Guyana, is ISO certified, and has partnerships with international companies.
Our local seafarers aspirants, as we did our previous studies, have shown that they have been doing the jobs for just a chunk of the salary that they could be getting once they're properly trained at an institute like this.
In an interview with the newsroom, Captain Sunil Kumar explained the type of training the institute will offer.
Training will be in various fields. First of all, it will be for the maritime, that is merchant navy, so that people can be trained and they can be employed on merchant vessel trading worldwide, like initially for the cadet program, and even from cadet to master, they become a captain, or from cadet to chief engineer, and they can do the service on merchant vessel, different type of ships around the world.
The institute is accepting applicants aged 16 to 37 from Guyana and the Caribbean. A residential facility will be accessible to students. The company is also bringing in its own ship to serve the training needs of the institute.
We are bringing our own training ship in Guyana. We are naming it TS Training Ship Guyana. Maybe in 2 months it will be in Guyana. We are just visiting it at the school, just waterfront. It will be great. So the people from the local and also in the local Caribbean, they can also take opportunity to get trained and certified. So these are the various other fields, the maritime and offshore. Both trade will be trained.
This will allow for a full mission ship simulator and also provide a semi-Olympic size swimming pool for various training programs, along with advanced fire prevention and firefighting mock-up station. Once training is complete, graduates could access a range of jobs.
So the oil and gas industry has a wide range of occupations for both entry-level and experienced professionals. And the courses we are offering are certified by Institute in Singapore, NRMC. So these candidates are guaranteed jobs locally and internationally. We have our shipyards, our local ships that we'll be hiring them to work on. So there are vast opportunities for these candidates to secure jobs with our local company along with our international partners. AVI is ISO certified, so we can directly collaborate with international companies to meet the needs of our local industry. And so this is why we were best fitted to collaborate with Alexar Corporation for this maritime development.
Reporting for the newsroom, Neil Marks.
We tell you now that the North Pacoima Mountain Safari was granted a conditional approval by the National COVID-19 Task Force to host its 18th outdoor experience in Guyana's mountainous region. Coordinator Frank Singh explains how the safari will be done this year amidst the COVID-19 pandemic to ensure the safety of participants and villages. Isnel Patwa reports.
After cancelling the North Pacoima Mountain Safari in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the organizers were granted approval this year, but only a few persons will get to experience the beauty and wildlife of Guyana in the time of the pandemic. Coordinator Frank Singh told the newsroom that a negative COVID-19 antigen test is mandatory for all participants and only a maximum of 50 persons are allowed to participate this year.
So right now we're in the 18th safari that we're doing, but this one is a little different because of the COVID. We had to get permission from the COVID task force, and we have to observe all the COVID protocols in the sense that we have to wear a mask, sanitize, social distance, and we have to do an antigen test, all who's participating this year. Yes, we did get a great response, but as I mentioned before, we could only limit it to 50 persons, so I had to disappoint a lot of people. When you work it out, it's like 4 persons in a vehicle, it's like 12 hours, 48. And include myself, there's 49, so we reached the 50 already, you know.
Okay.
But I got a response like about 35 vehicles, but I can't take on that amount.
Okay. Singh explained that villages in the Pacoima Mountains would always look forward to the safari, but this year the participants will not be allowed to enter the villages.
Before we used to go in the villages and socialize with the villagers, but now we have to do our camping on the outskirts of the village. And we're looking like where we have source of water, and then we'll do our camping there or cooking.
In an effort to ensure the safety of everyone, Singh said that person's temperature will be checked every morning.
So once you go over that temperature, I mean the danger zone temperature, well then we will try to see if you're in an area that we can get a medevac out, or the vehicle turn back with you and take you to, well, the closest hospital will be there is Lethem Hospital, but some of these big villages, they will have like a health outpost. So if we're in a big village, we do the test with the health center, and then if it's, well, danger zone, we take it to Lethem.
The safari will depart Georgetown on Sunday, March 28, and will last for a period of 7 days. Persons will journey through the Tropical Rainforest Reserve, Arokrama, and will also pass indigenous villages such as Karasabai, Tiperu, Yerong Paru, and Keto, among others. The safari promises an unforgettable experience full of wildlife, pristine forests, mountains, and hills. Meanwhile, approval was also granted for the Bartika Safari in August and the South Rupununi Safari in November this year. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanella Patwa.
Now, being the leading infectious cause of death worldwide, the World Health Organization estimates that 1.8 billion people are infected with tuberculosis. As of last year, 10 million people contracted the infection, while 1.4 million died. As Guyana observes World Tuberculosis Day, the newsroom's Sheena Henry spoke with Dr. Kwesi Grant, who gave an insight on the contagious disease.
So there is TB disease, and there is what we call latent TB. So there's active TB and passive TB. So latent TB means that you have the bacteria in your system circulating, but you don't exhibit any signs and symptoms. What are those signs and symptoms? Those signs and symptoms are, so if you have pulmonary TB, that's TB in your lungs, you will have a productive cough, meaning that when you cough, you get coal come out. The coal can be yellow or green or even brown, or with slight blood. So if we see the coal with blood or is brown, we know that there's a classic sign of TB.
That was Dr. Kwesi Grant, who is responsible for TB/HIV in Guyana. TB is accompanied by fever, loss of appetite, followed by weight loss, and persons can even experience diarrhea. Once a person has extrapulmonary TB, a productive cough will not be present. Instead, persons will experience nerve pain, night sweats, and other symptoms, all depending on the type of tuberculosis they may have.
When we screen persons we have a special skin test that we do called Mantoux test. And we usually screen contacts of TB patients, persons with TB disease with a Mantoux. And once we find them being positive, the skin test is positive, it's reactive, then we treat them for latent TB infection because we don't want them to develop the TB disease.
Because tuberculosis is contagious, patients are administered their treatment via directly observed treatment short course, DOTS, where the doctors observe patients consuming their medication. A combination of isoniazid, rifampin, pyrazinamide, and ethambutol antibiotics are used for at least 6 months and can increase depending on the type of TB the patient has. The 4 antibiotics are given to the patient over the period of 2 months. When the patient is no longer contagious, the antibiotic number is reduced to 2 for the remainder of the treatment regimen. Meanwhile, Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony on Wednesday stated that Guyana has generally done well with managing tuberculosis. He said the country has recorded a reduction in the number of cases. Dr. Anthony said the ministry has introduced a number of innovations to monitor TB patients as the treatment period is lengthy.
As we celebrate World TB Day, we still have a number of challenges that we have to work on, but I'm very satisfied with where the program is today and the work that they have been doing.
Being celebrated under this year's theme, "The Clock is Ticking," World Tuberculosis Day originated on March 24, 1882, upon the discovery of the disease by Dr. Robert Koch. For the Newsroom, I am Sheena Henry.
When the Newsroom returns, the financial, weather, and bridge reports along with sports. Welcome back to Newsroom. Now for a look at what's happening in sport. We're starting off with some football news. Guyana's Golden Jaguars will begin their journey to qualification for the 2022 World Cup when they take on Caribbean rival Trinidad and Tobago in the Dominican Republic. While both sides have had to maneuver preparation in a pandemic, Trinidad and Tobago had to endure serious off-field issues involving the TTFA and FIFA, while the Golden Jaguars had far from ideal preparation. The domestic players only got an opportunity to integrate with the overseas-based players when they arrived in the Dominican Republic last week, and from all indications, Marzio Maximo's side is gelling well ahead of the all-important tie. Only the winner of Group F will progress to the second of 3 rounds of qualification for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. Maximo said he was impressed with the level of commitment shown by the squad as players worked hard to regain fitness and secure a place in the final squad after a prolonged layoff due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Jaguars will play the Bahamas on March 30, followed by games against St. Kitts and Nevis and Puerto Rico. Thursday's game between Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago will be aired on Flow Sports and eNetworks Channel 2 from 19 hours. A Trinidad and Tobago player has tested positive for COVID-19 ahead of that nation's 2022 World Cup qualifier game against Guyana's Golden Jaguars on Thursday, March 25 in the Dominican Republic. The player was immediately isolated from the team's hotel, Newsroom learned on Wednesday afternoon via a press statement by the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association. The association said, and I quote, "Following the latest set of COVID-19 PCR testing for all members of the men's national team contingent in Santo Domingo, there was a positive result for a player on the night of Tuesday, March 23, 2021. The individual tested positive and was immediately isolated at the team's hotel. All COVID-19 protocols are being followed, and he's presently awaiting a retest for confirmation purposes. Strict contact tracing was then performed, and all primary contacts have been quarantined. They would be then tested accordingly following the player's retest results. The player is asymptomatic at this time. The TTFA also respects the confidentiality wishes of the player." End quote. Meanwhile, the Golden Jaguars skipper, that's Samuel Cox, is anticipating a highly competitive game when they face Trinidad and Tobago on Thursday in the Dominican Republic. The two CONCACAF nations clash in the first round of the 2022 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. Here's what Cox had to say on the eve of the contest.
In terms of preparations, Lasana, we've been primarily focusing on what we're going to do tactically. We know we were aware of some of the problems that the TTFA have gone through over the last couple of weeks and, the last year, in fact. And we know that there's a couple of new players that have been brought into their squad. Some of them are actually from, some of the leagues over in England, who we're quite aware of. We know what they bring to the table. We know that the Trinidad teams are always physical. Of course, we know the rivalry which comes between ourselves and Trini. So it's going to be a highly competitive game, but primarily we're focusing on what we're going to do, how we're going to get the advantage technically and tactically, psychologically and mentally. So yeah, I think we've done quite a bit on the board and in video analysis on their game, but our strengths, like the gaffer said, is going to be our speed, our tactical understanding. Like we've got something up our sleeve, which, we've changed from the last camp. Gaffers tactically changed a few things. So it's going to be an interesting game, highly competitive. And I know for sure that, we're all ready to go to war against Trinidad and Tobago.
Now, March 23, 2021 marked 2 years since Guyana qualified for the CONCACAF Gold Cup for the first time. The man at the helm, Samuel Cox, is back to take up another challenge, this time leading the Golden Jaguars in the first round of the 2022 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. With the Jaguars set to face Trinidad and Tobago on Thursday in the Dominican Republic, Cox has been reliving the historic moment, one he hopes can inspire his men on the field.
All of us were looking back at the memories yesterday. It feels like yesterday, in fact, since that historic day, where all proud Guyanese on that day were there to witness history being made in our first qualification for a major tournament. The proudest moment of my career, without a doubt. And I still look back at the videos today and I still get goosebumps, just at the adulation and the joy and happiness that moment gave the nation, qualifying for the Gold Cup for the first time. But yeah, it's something that we want to replicate, that feeling, that emotion of joy and again, trying to build on what we've done already. That was 2 years ago now, and as much as we can look back and savor those memories and look at them with fondness, I think for us now it's what's next. How are we going to improve on that? How are we going to create even more history? And that's always going to be hard to replicate, because that was a moment in time. But we do feel that there is definitely opportunity for more history to be made. We've got a lot of games coming up, not just these, but then we've got the games coming up in June, and then obviously the Gold Cup prelims in July also. So there's plenty more history to be made. Trying to replicate that is going to be a difficult challenge, but nothing's impossible.
Still in football, head coach of the Fruta Conquerors Football Club, Samson Gilbert, said they will look to their youth and experienced players to be the blend for success at the upcoming Caribbean Club Shield Championship in Curaçao. More from Akim Green.
The Tocqueville-based unit has always been a pillar for development and production of youth players in Guyana. The youth and some senior professionals will form the core of the Conquerors unit, who will look to improve on their record of 2 losses and 1 draw the 2019 edition of the championship.
Well, at Fruta Conquerors, we're a hub of development, as you know, is well established. We got a group of young players. We got a group of experienced players also over the years. We've been producing good talent. And right now, we got a lot of players with the senior national team that is going to play the World Cup qualifiers shortly, that was part of Fruta Conquerors, might have migrated to different clubs and all of that. But we got 2 players that are currently with the club. That is Omari Glasgow, and we have NICOLÁS MacArthur there with the squad there. We got Gregory Richardson, who is a well tried, tested, and proven national icon where football is concerned. He's with the squad also. You have people like Jal Greaves, Roshan Rich, good youngster, was with the training squad with the national team. We got also Leon Richardson, national under-20 player. That's Gregory's nephew. That's a good player. We got Dominic Garnett. He's a youth national. He's now a senior player, but these are players that seasoned, that been playing, that got the ability and gives the team the capacity to play at that level. And we want to prove that we belongs there.
The seasoned coach said they're working intensely on their finishing, which ultimately will lead to more goals. They failed to score a goal in the 3 matches in 2019 tournament.
Scoring goals, establishing the awareness to play the moments of the game. The game is established on attack, defense, and transition from attack to defense, and transition from defense to attack. And a lot of times, at the amateur level, we just get caught in attack and defense. But that moment of transition, when you lose that ball, what you do immediately to stop the advance of the opponent, or when you win that ball, what you do immediately to advance your attack. And so that moment is critical, and a lot of time we lose sight of the game by not focusing on the specific moments of the game. We want to play a principle-based game using the moments and the principles in attack, like establishing mobility, So from a tactical perspective, I'm working on bringing the team up to speed with what is necessary to compete at the international level. It's an international club tournament, and we really want to make sure that Guyana, advance farther than we were the last time. We have it in us to do well, and I'm sure we could do better than the last time.
The tournament will be played in Curacao from April 23rd to May 2nd. A contingent of 23, 18 players and 5 management staff are eyeing to arrive at a minimum 2 days prior to the April 23rd match date. Conquerors are in Group C, along with Hope International FC of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines and SV Racing Club of Aruba. For the Newsroom, Akim Green.
Now, West Indies ended day 4 of the first test against Sri Lanka on 34-1, 341 runs away from a challenging victory target set by Sri Lanka. The Caribbean side set a target of 375, lost John Campbell for 11 before skipper Craig Braffett 8 not out and Nkrumah Bonner 15 not out, batted to the close. The day belonged to Sri Lankan pair Patam Nisanka and Niroshan Dikwala, whose 177-run 6-wicket partnership frustrated West Indies on the penultimate day. Sri Lanka made 476 all-out, with debutant Nisanka scoring a magnificent 103 and Dikwala a career-best 96. Their efforts backed up Oshado Fernando's 91 and 50 from Dhananjaya de Silva. Bowling for West Indies, fast bowler Kemar Roach took 3 for 74, off-spinner Raheem Cornwell 3 for 137 and Kyle Mears 2 for 24. Scores in the match: Sri Lanka 169 and 476, West Indies 271 and 34 for 1. And with that, we have come to the end of the news for this evening. Of course, you can find updates on these and other stories on our website, Newsroom.gy, our Facebook page and Instagram. On behalf of the entire news team, my name is Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for watching. Be safe. See you next time.